In today's video, we're going over all the latest rumbling and rumors around the 2025 NHL draft. There's lots of speculation on some big things that may happen. Could we see movements within the top 3 picks even? The teams up there all kind of have their preferred players, and there's speculation there could be some swaps to make sure they all get who they want. Lots of other draft picks in the first round that could be available. Lots of players who could be traded around the draft involving draft picks, even a big potential sign and trade involving the Maple Leafs. We'll discuss all that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have lots to talk about here today with all the latest rumors and rumblings around the 2025 NHL draft. As I had mentioned on a couple of other occasions, I'm going to do a video like this about once a week or so because there's been lots of updated new speculation on what we might see around the draft. It's usually one of the busiest times of the year with not only lots of player selections, but lots of teams kind of jockeying for position, moving up, moving down, trying to get the player they want, and of course lots of players that are rumored to be traded, like already existing NHL roster players. This is the time when we see a lot of movement. So lots of players sometimes are traded for first round picks or have picks involved, and this is the time when it happens. So let's kind of review all the latest intel that's being bantered about around what we might see at this big event coming up here in less than a month away now, just over 3 weeks' time. So first of all, let's talk about the top 3 selections. Now, of course, we know the New York Islanders won the draft lottery. They're picking first overall. And I know that there was comments from new GM Matthew Darshane that he'd be shocked if they traded the first overall pick and had an offer that was really something that he had to consider. And I still kind of feel that is the most likely scenario. But there's been a lot of chatter amongst NHL reporters that have been hanging around the draft combine this week that there is some talk that, even though it's going to take a lot to make it happen, so I want to kind of caution you, this is probably an unlikely scenario, but essentially the top 3 teams being the Islanders, the Sharks, and the Blackhawks all kind of have, by the sounds of things, a player that they really want to target, and obviously, you know, there's going to be some opportunities that they're going to try and make sure they move up and get their guy. Now, the Islanders at 1 have all the leverage. They don't really have to do anything because they can pick whomever they want because everybody's on the board. So they're not going to feel obligated to really do anything unless they really zone in on a player that they feel like the Sharks or the Blackhawks are less likely to take, and that they see an opportunity they can move back, grab that player, and get even more assets to add to their retool, rebuild, whatever we want to call it on Long Island to make them better in the long run. Now, if they want Matthew Schaefer, they probably need to stay in the first spot to make sure they get him. If they decide that they wanted hometown boy James Haggins as the first pick, they very well could, by the sounds of things, move back a little bit, get more assets, and make that selection instead. However, there's lots of talk that the Sharks are attempting to move up to 1. They would be interested in that. Now, we had previously heard from GM Mike Greer saying that the draft pick in the first round for him would be more likely than previous years to be something he would consider moving. But at that point, that was prior to the draft lottery. I didn't know where he was going to be picking exactly, and also knew that, you know, if he had an opportunity to move that pick for like one of the, you know, absolute top players in the league, that, you know, he would absolutely consider that. You kind of have to, right? So, but there is talk that the Sharks would really like to get Schaefer, which isn't like shocking because he's such a good, you know, dynamic defenseman who many are projecting to be, a potential, you know, probably top 3 or 4 defensemen in the NHL in the first few years he's in the league. He's going to be right up there, according to some, with Makar and Hughes. I mean, if that guy's really that good, then yeah, I understand why you want him. But they do have Sam Dickinson, of course, who just won a Memorial Cup with the London Knights, was their first, or one of their first picks last year, early in the first round. He's got high-end potential and does have that, looks like he could be a number 1 defenseman too. Now, having more than one number 1 D in the organization, is that a problem? It's a good problem to have. So, you know, at the end of the day, maybe they feel like with what they've got coming with their other areas that, you know, Schaefer's too good to pass up. But that's the speculation right now that the Sharks really would like to get Schaefer. Now, there's also a lot of rumblings about the Blackhawks that they really are kind of zoned in on Michael Misa. Now, Misa is right now projected by many to be the number 2 pick. And if San Jose can't get their the opportunity to move up to 1, to make a trade to go to the first spot, that if they're picking at 2, they probably are taking Michael Misa at that point. Because after Schaefer, like the next rated defenseman it's much lower. You're looking at a small group of high-end forwards, probably highlighted and led by Misa at that point. So the Sharks are likely taking Misa if they can't move up. They're unlikely probably to move down, but you never know unless a trade comes along that we haven't heard of yet that could really just wow them with more assets. Chicago, like I said, picking 3rd. If Schaefer and Misa are off the board, it's not really clear exactly what they would do. I've heard a variety of things. If Chicago stays at 3, could they go for Hagens? Yes, they could. I've heard that they really like Caleb Desnoyers as well, and some wouldn't be shocked because he is ranked a little lower than that. I know that Porter Martone, in one of the interviews he did at the Draft Combine, was absolutely just gushing over Chicago. So I think his meetings with them went extremely well as well. So it's not a real clear-cut definitive answer on who the Blackhawks would take. I got a feeling I'd probably lean more towards Martone, but that's just a gut feeling. So there is chatter at the top of the draft order here that there could be some movement. Like I said, it's going to take a lot. Even moving up 1 spot when you're that high in the draft, you still would have to add a lot to it. Obviously, a lot of these teams have multiple picks, either in the first round or first 2 rounds. So you're probably looking at, picking up multiple other picks along with the ones you're swapping, and at the same time, maybe even throwing in another prospect or roster player on top of that. The price is going to be very, very high, and I think it's unlikely that Darsh moves the first pick. I'm just not sure, as much as San Jose might like Schaefer, if that rumor is true, that they're going to pay enough to really make it worth his while to not take him. Unless, like I said, the wild card and all of that is that the Islanders really want Hagens and view him as the best prospect. If they do, and they know what the plans are for the Blackhawks and the Sharks, they might be content to move back, get Hagens, and get a bunch of other stuff too, which might make sense for them. So we'll see. I mean, it is remotely possible that instead of going Islanders, Sharks, Blackhawks, that maybe we end up going Sharks, Blackhawks, Islanders. I don't know. Like I said, it would be expensive. It would probably be complicated. So I'm not going to say that the odds of it happening are high or anything like that. But there is a lot of chatter throughout the draft combine that those types of conversations are kind of being had. And that's what some of those teams are kind of, looking at. So we'll have to wait and see on that. Obviously, there's lots of chatter when you get down to number 4 about Utah. We've heard a bunch of different rumors in the past week as well. One we talked about on the channel the other day, a couple times. One that the Dave Pagnotti was reporting that Utah is definitely open to trading the pick, is what he was saying. And if they trade it outright, that they would like a real good young NHL forward. So rather than wait, a year or two for somebody to join their roster, they could get a player that might be comparable or better that they feel that they could jump in and help them right now. So there's that. So that wasn't linked to any specific player or team. It's just that they're open to doing that. We've also heard that from Jeff Merrick saying that he's heard about Utah that they really want to address goaltending and really want to look for a potential upgrade in that sense. He wondered about maybe Thatcher Demko out of Vancouver, since they've got Lankinen signed with all the injury history. And the Canucks also put out their season ticket promos to their season ticket holders, and Pettersson and Demko were not on it, causing a lot of questions and speculation on that front too. Don't know if it means anything or not, but it's got people talking either way. So could Demko be a guy that maybe Utah kind of zones in on? If they're comfortable with his injury history, that he can move past it, then he's a great goaltender. He might be high end enough that you might consider moving that number 4 pick. I mean, it's a risky move, though, no doubt. I mean, we've heard a lot about Pettersson, too, and, maybe going to a new market and Vancouver moving that contract before his no move kicks in. So, again, I mean, I don't know where Pettersson would go, or if maybe Utah would zone in on that. Maybe Pettersson could be that young forward. Obviously he's still on the younger side of things, former 100-point player. I don't know. You have to think about that. So some connections that maybe Utah and Vancouver might be having conversations, but again, hard to say with certainty on that. There was some chatter, but this came from Montreal media, so I don't know really what to make of it, but there was talk that the Montreal Canadiens knowing that pick might be available, might be interested in trying to move up, or they have picks 16 and 17, that maybe the young forward that they could be looking for, wondering if maybe they could try to move Kirby Dach. I'm like, well, if the Pettersson stuff, like if Utah has an opportunity to try to get Pettersson and Kirby Dach is offered, I mean, that's a pretty easy one to what they're going to do there, right? They're not going to Montreal. So, but if the Pettersson stuff's not anything that's a real possibility, and they want to look at it, maybe if they could get Dach and say pick 16, I don't know if they consider that with Dach's injuries. I mean, it's really set back his value and development the last few years, so I don't know how they would value or view him. So I think it's probably less likely that we see that, but there's been a lot of chatter that Montreal would like to see about moving up, and the whole motivation behind Montreal. And if it's not for, maybe Montreal also, with those picks 16 to 17, tries to swing a deal with another team, maybe that's, in that, anywhere from 5, 6, 7, 8 range, because they really like Caleb Desnoyers as well. And it's been a long time since they used a higher first-round pick on a French-Canadian player who has, star potential. And, they do really apparently value and like what they see there. So there's interest. But again, they have to make the trade make sense. And, we've heard Logan Maillou's name bantered about being available for trade as well. So, would Montreal try to make a package with either pick 16 or 17, maybe both, some kind of combination of Mailloux or Dach to try to get up there and grab Desnoyers? I wouldn't be shocked if they tried. Whether or not it'd be successful, we'll have to wait and see. A bunch of other picks that we know are available, which would not necessarily link to anything specific, but the Sabres, pick number 9, definitely available. Kevin Adams basically has everything under the sun available for the Sabres, trying to make changes and upgrades to get that team moving in the right direction. So I think we could see a variety of things with Buffalo. Hard to say exactly what. I mean, obviously we've heard lots of players like J.J. Peterka, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. Jack Quinn's name has been out there a little bit. We've heard to some degree Alex Tuch, Bo Byram, but a lot of those guys, if they're going to be traded, they could be traded around the draft, and that number 9 pick is definitely in play. If the right deal comes along, the number 10 pick with the Ducks is something that's available as well. They've made it clear they want to try to get into the playoffs. They're tired of losing. They want to take this rebuild to the next level. So if they could trade pick 10 for a player that can help them immediately, they're definitely something they'd like to try to do. Don Waddell in Columbus has picks 14 and 20, and he's publicly confirmed that both picks are 100% available. Columbus had a good rebound season last year, and would like to build on that. If they can get another player or two that can jump into their lineup right away, rather than wait for a few years for some of these picks to develop, they would be very open to that as well. Of course, Nashville has picks 5, 23, and 26. I think the Nashville Predators, if I'm Barry Trotz, I'm probably keeping that number 5 pick unless there's just a crazy offer I can't refuse, which is, I don't know how likely that's going to be. But like I said, there's definitely teams that seem like they're interested in moving up to get a couple guys, and maybe they kind of wow them here. But the Predators are a team that needs to get younger, and they can get a real good player at 5 that they can really build around. So I don't know. I think it's more likely they keep 5, but I'd watch them when it comes to picks 23 and 26. Phillies at 6. And they also have pick 22, as well as the Oilers pick, which is going to be 31 or 32. It's hard to say. Like, both picks 31 and 32 have been traded. We just don't know, because one's with the Flyers, one with the Flames. We just don't know which one's going to be which yet. So the Flyers, definitely, I haven't heard that the number 6 pick is available, but they're definitely going to be a team to watch. We know that they're trying to add some more young talent to their group here, and it will be interesting. Calgary doesn't have their own first-round pick. Of course, that's one that goes with Montreal at 17, but they do have other picks they've gained from trades from other teams, including pick 18 and pick 31. So, obviously, they have the Panthers pick and the Devils pick. So, the Calgary Flames will definitely be a team to kind of keep an eye on here. Obviously, Vancouver at 15. Also, there was some speculation around the draft combine. I know, I believe it was Cam Robertson reported that the Canucks only had assistant GM Cammy Granato there, that Patrick Alvin and Rutherford were not on hand on site, which made a lot of people kind of wonder that there's a good chance that the Canucks are going to trade that pick. So maybe they're looking at They're still looking at prospects that are in that area, which is what Granato's been doing with the combine, but it's something that, it might be more likely than not that they move the pick. So we'll have to wait and see on that. So lots of picks there that could be moved. Some prospects that I think are very interesting that are going to cause teams to try and make moves. One that when I did a mock draft last week, the last time I did a video like this, I also did a mock draft shortly thereafter, and I had Brady Martin, who was a bit of a up-and-coming riser, going to the Bruins. And I've seen some comments on there saying that there's no way he was going to go that high, and that Boston was not going to take him. They were going to go for a different kind of player. And well, Brady Martin is getting a lot of hype around the draft combine this week. He even said he's a good, hard-working prairie boy who comes from a farming family. He's not even going to be going to the draft in person because he's staying home to work and help his family on the farm. But he's a player that a lot of the teams picking between 4 to 7 are really high on. Even Utah. If Utah stays at 4 and does not move the pick, wouldn't shock me based on what we've heard if Martin might be the guy. It would be a little bit off the wall kind of pick, but that's what Utah does. That's what their GM there has a history of. So, but Martin, all the way, he's not. The word is he's not getting past Boston, who currently have the number 7 pick. So, and I don't suspect the Bruins to trade that pick. I'd be quite surprised, but you never know. At this point, I haven't heard much about it. But if he's not getting past Boston at 7, it's certainly not outlandish to see him getting picked at 7. But word is that all those teams, like the Nashville Predators, the Philadelphia Flyers, Utah, that they all really, really like this guy. He says that when he was asked who he kind of compares himself to or tries to play like, his answers were guys like Tom Wilson and Sam Bennett. Well, look at what they're known for. I mean, who wouldn't want that guy on their team? He's going to be potentially a menace to play against if he turns out to be as good as a lot of people think he will. So it's not outlandish to think he's going to go higher than a lot of people are anticipating, in my opinion. So we'll see. A few other tidbits as well around some of the other prospects, just to get their official height and weight and everything measured at the combine. Matthew Schaefer's officially 6'2", 186. That is a real good size. Obviously a good height, and that's you wouldn't want him to be too much heavier. He's still going to bound to fill out some more and add a little bit of more muscle. Might be closer to 195 or something like that maybe when he gets to the NHL, but that's really pretty good. James Haggins is officially 5'10 and a half, 186. Michael Misa, 6'1", 182. So some of the top guys there. Just some key info on that. And apparently with Montreal, if they do not move up, they still have one of those 16-17 picks. One of the players that they apparently are quite high on that we're hearing from the combine is Radim Murka. So Murka might be a target for the Canadians in that middle part of the first round. I mean, right now, it's kind of hard to say where he would go. I've seen, rankings have him anywhere from 13, 14, 15, 16. So, he may or may not be available. It might be a case that if they really wanted him bad enough that they might have to try to move up a couple of spots, but kind of difficult to say. So that's a lot around the prospects and the picks that we're hearing. As far as some of the players, like NHL roster experienced guys that could be moved, we've already mentioned a few of them, like a couple out of Vancouver. For example, a couple of the names to watch: Rasmus Anderson in Calgary. No guarantee he gets moved, but is entering the final year of the contract. Many believe he doesn't have a long future in Calgary, but if he's not traded, then he could be one of the big names to watch at the trade deadline this year. But getting him with a full year in his contract instead of just a few months is going to be a big upgrade for some teams, so certainly look for his name to be bantered about. Keandre Miller out of New York with the Rangers, another player to watch. There is belief that he is definitely available. It's not 100% given they trade him, but they're also kind of iffy on his next contract and are kind of weighing up the options there. Like I mentioned, with the Sabres, or you can put a lot of their players out there, but the main ones that I'd be keeping an eye on would be Peterka and Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. We'll see. Marco Rossi in Minnesota, some say is pretty much as good as gone. It's pretty much a foregone conclusion. He's going to be traded. We had heard the Canucks were high on him, so I don't know if they would make an offer involving that 15th overall pick and maybe something else with it. But look for Rossi to be a prime name to watch. Of course, we've heard lots out of Dallas with Peter DeBoer being fired here very recently, that there could be some other major moves out of the Stars organization, that they're willing to do some pretty drastic things to make the team better. Jason Robertson's name has been out there a lot. Again, it would be an expensive trade. He's a high-end player, but his name is definitely out there. So with Vancouver, not only with Demko and Pettersson, but I'd keep an eye on Connor Garland too. 1 year left on his contract, and it doesn't sound like he's overly interested in extending, but that could change. With Montreal, Logan Mailloux definitely out there as well. Trevor Zegras in Anaheim's a player that, again, not a guarantee, but he's been in and out of the rumor mill for a long time. John Gibson, down to 1 year in his contract. For teams looking for goaltending help, maybe a late first-round pick. Maybe it's a second-round pick. I don't know, but there could be some picks involved with the Gibson trade. So there is that. Vegas is looking for some cap space. So guys like Nicholas Hague, who has been linked to the Flyers, and Ivan Barbashev is also kind of expected to be a potential cost-cutting move as well. But again, hard to say. Marty Necas out of Colorado, again, a player that we're hearing may not be thrilled with staying there long term. I'm not sure what it's going to take to make him happy. Almost sounds like a Pierre-Luc Dubois 2.0 type of player now. I'm not sure what it is that he's going to do to be happy and content with where he's at. I mean, this would be the second team now that this has been the rumor, so I don't know. And of course, the one big speculation too is we know Mitch Marner in Toronto is a UFA, not really connected to the draft, and you're not going to trade him for like big picks. But there is some talk around the draft combine that the Maple Leafs are well aware that the odds of them losing Marner are high at this point, and that they're very much open to try to do a sign and trade, which would give Marner the 8-year contract, because they can only do an 8-year deal, of course, with the Leafs, and it has to be before July 1st. Once July 1st hits and he officially enters free agency, even if he does the deal with the Leafs, it's a 7-year deal max. The Leafs are trying to push for this, obviously, so they can recoup some assets. If Marner's camp absolutely says, no, we're not worried about the 8-year deal, we don't care, we want to just go into free agency and make a decision, then at the end of the day, that's their right. And while it may not make any difference for the Leafs to get anything back, they might be completely screwed out of that. We'll have to wait and see. But a couple of the teams that are apparently interested, well, one of them, as far as the sign and trade goes, that people are hearing about at the combine is Florida. And I'm not sure how Florida could pull that off. For one, they'd probably have no choice but to not bring back Sam Bennett and Aaron Ekblad, because right now they have enough space that the belief is between Marchand, Bennett, and Ekblad, they can probably keep 2 out of 3. Marchand's probably going to command more money at his age than a lot of people because he's played so well. So he's probably the least likely of the 3 to return. Ekblad's a former first overall pick there. Played his whole career there. I know he wants to stay. He might be the one guy that's willing to take the biggest discount, but again, that's not a given. I think when they brought in Seth Jones, it was a little bit of insurance in that case. Bennett's a unique creature too. It's hard to envision him playing somewhere else, but based on what we've seen out of him in the last couple of years in the playoffs, there's definitely teams lining up, and some people say that they're going to offer the moon. Now, I'm not sure where else he would go. There's no doubt there'd be interest, but would it make sense for the Panthers to cut, to say, okay, we're not going to bring back Bennett, we're not going to bring back Ekblad, but we're going to do this big trade with the Leafs to get Marner? I don't know that makes sense for them. Marner's a phenomenal offensive player, great regular season player, but how these guys play in the playoffs, I don't know that they get them closer to getting another Stanley Cup. I mean, keep in mind, Marner does have an old relationship with Matthew Tkachuk. They were junior teammates for a year. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, we heard guys like Tkachuk kind of gushing about how the Toronto team was better than they looked and that the media is too hard on them and all that trolling. I don't know. It's really hard to say how things could go, but there is some rumblings out there, but I think it's not a likely scenario. It'd be shocking, but hey, we were all pretty shocked at the same time when they all pulled off that Matthew Tkachuk deal in Calgary and Florida. So could there be something like that? I mean, Florida would have to give up a big piece. Hard to say, but hey, we'll wait and see. Those are the latest rumblings from the 2025 NHL draft here for now. So stay tuned. There'll be plenty more talk as we get closer. The rumors are going to pick up, and with the combine being this week, lots of things have emerged for sure. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.